you've got a session 0 coming up and you'd like to form a killer party, you're in luck. Because behind today's secret door, the party planner. So behind today's secret door, the party planner. This is Secret Door, a channel devoted to in-depth discussion about Dungeons & Dragons, and my name is Matt Morich. I have started a Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the channel, your help would be greatly appreciated and much needed. And many thanks to Marcelo and Doug for your support. The link will be in the pinned comment and in the description. So this is kind of outside my normal framework of content that I do, but this is an idea for a really killer party. And by that I mean a party that is comprised not just of individually great classes, but individually great classes that synergize beautifully. Now, in this particular composition, everything comes to full fruition at level 7, and that will be at the very end of the video. I'll put the timestamp in the pinned comment, and if you don't watch anything else of this video, go to the timestamp and watch the level 7 description, because that is where everything gets insane. This is the kind of party that is going to be extremely difficult for your DM to handle, and by level 7, when level 7 happens, the DM may just quit. Now, before we actually get into the whole thing, what I'm going to do with this, this is not a test drive, really, but what I'm going to do is use the test drive format and give you a snapshot level by level, in this case from levels 1 through 7, so that you'll see that it isn't really just all about everything coming together at level 7. That's where you just become atomic. But before that, the party will play very, very, very effectively. And that's really important, because we don't want this to be something where an individual party member is just there for the level 7 achievement. That is not what I would call a great composition. Now, all that being said, let me give you a very strong cautionary note here. This is a kind of a video that I don't do normally because it seems fraught with problems for me. I really strongly believe in letting players play whatever they want to play. So you might individually get all excited about what you're going to see here and rush to your gaming group and say, we have to play this. And you're then strong-arming everybody into playing something that they may not want to play, and that's no good. Now, you could share this video with the others and let them watch it and see what they think about it, and then go and start discussing whether you want to do this or not do that. That's perfectly acceptable. Or you could go about it in a bit more of a sneaky way. The classes that I'm picking here are going to be popular classes. The subclasses in particular are going to be extremely popular subclasses. So if you were at a session 0 and you wanted to see this party happen, you could walk into that session 0 and just start listening to it, and don't offer anything about what you want to do or what class you want or the party you want or anything like that. Let everybody else do the talking. And if you hear someone say that they are going to play one of the key roles of this particular party, so let's just say Glamour Bard. If someone were going to play Glamour Bard, then you should seriously think about playing the Druid. The other two classes are martial classes. They are critical in some respects. They're critical in practical D&D play. One of them has a very strong spin and influence in the entire scheme of things. The other is also an extremely popular choice for any kind of martial character to play. So you might be able to just simply achieve this without anybody even knowing that you did it, which is a bit... I'm not saying you're trying to manipulate anybody, but you could end up having this happen almost on accident. As long as one person says that they're either going to, if someone says they're going to play a druid, then you should play the Glamour Bard. Now, having said all of that as well, you might want to just simply play one of the classes that's in this party and nothing else. And that it's very important that you embrace your character. The game is a lot more than just the mechanics. But the mechanics can also inspire you to play the class. So it just depends on your own personality type. So I just wanted to give those kind of cautions here. How you play at the table is extremely important to me. I think that's pretty obvious in how I discuss things on the channel. So I just want you to keep that caveat in mind, please. All right. So I'm not going to get into specifically, this is going to be, first of all, it's going to be a party of 4. And of course it can work with a party of 5 or 6 or whatever, but the nucleus here is a party 4 that I'm going to be talking about. Now, in terms of race or feats and all that, this is very, very flexible. I'm going to be mentioning them as we go along. Your origin feats don't particularly matter. I think obviously for the Glamour Bard, you're going to want to take Alert. The Druid may want to take Alert. But the 4 classes that I think are going to make this really hum and go really, really well is Bard, which will end up being Glamour Bard. Druid. Now, the Druid could be any kind of Druid. That's the beautiful part about this. Any Druid subclass will absolutely work. I actually am going to say I think that it will work best with the Land Druid. But in truth, it will work with any other Druid. And then we have a Barbarian, which I'm going to, and it could work with any Barbarian. I am specifying here the Berserker Barbarian because they just deal monstrous damage. Now, the Berserker Barbarian's role in all of this is not necessarily truly synergistic. It is kind of, but not super duper. It definitely benefits from this. Let's put it that way. But you need something reliable that is going to put the damage down on the enemy, and the Berserker Barbarian can do that. And with Reckless Attack gaining advantage at will, it's going to deliver its damage on a very routine basis. And it's one of the highest DPR subclasses in the game. So its job there in this party is what a Barbarian's job would normally be. It's just simply to be consistent, to be maybe tankish, but also to be able to just really put damage down on the enemy. And the final one is the Paladin. Now, we're going to be, I specifically am aiming at the Oath of Glory Paladin, and we'll talk about, all that will become obvious. If you don't have Oath of Glory as a Paladin, you don't absolutely have to have a Paladin then. What I do like about the Paladin is that it does have some healing options to it, and this is a party that's going to have a wealth of healing, because the Bard can do it, the Druid can do it, and of course the Paladin can do it a little bit. So it's a party that will be able to recover. If something just goes wrong, it'll be able to recover, and it's going to be able to just do an amazing amount of damage to the enemy. In this, I'm assuming that the Bard character is probably going to want to have proficiency in Thieves' Tools so it can deal with opening locks and what have you. If your Bard doesn't want that, you're going to need somebody to do that. So either you could take one of the martial classes, probably the Barbarian, and switch it out for a Rogue, and that will give that to you. Or you could borrow the idea of the sidekick from Tasha's and use a sidekick there that will be there basically to open locks and find traps. It's just very campaign dependent, very DM dependent on how critical a role it is to have that kind of a character. And I'm not trying to suggest that the Bard is going to be as good as a Rogue would be necessarily in that, but it will be good enough. But again, that is a DM dependent thing. Okay, so now in terms of races for the 4 classes, I would say I would try to go with a Wood Elf or any Goliath. Now the Bard can do anything at once, but the other 3 are going to want to think about those 2 particular races as much as humanly possible. It's not essential. It's just it just adds to the madness. Let's put it that way. Okay, so let's start the level by level discussion here. So we're just going to be going very quickly through these levels. Snapshot is the key word here. We want to see how this party will be able to play as we advance through levels. So at level 1, both of your spellcasters, the Bard and the Druid, are both going to have 2 spell slots each. Now the Bard will have access to Sleep, which is a great control spell, and the Druid will have access to Entangle, which is not only a really good control spell, but it's really good at this level. So if I'm assuming that you have 3 encounters on average in a day, each one lasting 4 rounds, you've got control established for all of those encounters. You also have 2 of the heaviest hitting DPR machines out there going out to finish the enemy off. So level 1 is going to be now the low levels are the ones that are going to be the hardest. So even here at level 1, you're going to have plenty of the ability of effective control along with high DPR. It's a really good combination. Both the Paladin and the Barbarian both have weapon mastery properties that they can be using, and both, I'm assuming, will probably want to be using great weapons. So here at level 1, where things are the most vulnerable for any starting party, you've got a pretty solid mix of things going on. At level 2, the Barbarian's getting reckless attacks, so now things get even smoother for you because the damage is coming out in a far more even fashion. Each spellcaster is picking up another spell slot. And let's not forget about Bardic Inspiration in the midst of all this as well. Judicious use of Bardic Inspiration here at levels 1 and 2 is going to also make things easier. I would generally use that for the Paladin so that the Paladin is sure that it hits. Normally, I would say saving throws is the best thing for Bardic Inspiration, but because of the nature of how this how this party is likely to play out, I would want to make sure that that you don't miss. And once again, not wanting to go over every little thing that everybody gets, but it's important to note here that the Druid is going to get access to Wild Shape here at level 2, and they're going to have access to the Wild Companion, which is essentially Find Familiar for a day at the expense of a Wild Shape usage. Definitely the Druid should do this and use the Owl and get advantage again. So you're going to be able to generate advantage for that Paladin, and of course the Barbarian's going to do it themselves, and you've got Bardic Inspiration floating in the background to make sure that anything that goes wrong still goes right. And at level 3, everybody gets their subclasses. Now for the Barbarian, I would pick the Berserker if it was up to me. The Berserker just does an insane amount of damage, and at these low levels, it stands by itself in terms of how much damage it can be done. Now, it should be noted, too, that either of these characters, the martial characters, could be swapped out for something like a Pact of the Blade Warlock, specifically one that's using Armor of Agathis, and of course, most Pact of the Blade Warlocks are going to be using Armor of Agathis. If you did go with Warlock, then of course you could also pick up Pact of the Chain, which is also going to make everything even easier from a utility standpoint, and already the party is going nuts. But for the sake of this, I'm talking about Paladin, Berserker, Druid, and Bard. But you are getting the picture here that there's a certain level of flexibility in what character classes could be benefiting from how this will all work out. Now, for the Druid, I'm going to suggest going land. The Land Druid, of course, gets access to a variable spell list out there choosing that's insanely great. But at level 6, they're going to pick up extra castings of their highest level spells, and that's what's going to make this really, really go. Any Druid will do, but the Land Druid, especially at level 7, things will blow up immediately. And of course, I would strongly suggest for the Paladin to go Oath of Glory. That again is for a projection to level 7. Up until level 7, it doesn't necessarily really matter all that much what oath the Paladin would be. But from level 7, if you're going to be playing from level 7 into the end of a long campaign, then it's going to be worth it to be Oath of Glory. And finally, of course, we get to the Bard, and I'm going to say the Glamour Bard. And this isn't really optional at all. The whole thing centers around the Glamour Bard's ability with Mantle of Inspiration. So when you give out a Bardic Inspiration, you're going to be able to affect your Charisma modifier in targets. You're going to give them temporary hit points equal to twice the roll of your Bardic Inspiration die. And the important part, for me anyway, is that party member is going to be able to use their reaction to move their movement, and when they do so, they do not incur opportunity attacks. Now, I've done the Glamour Bard twice in test drives, once in the old rules and once in this one. So I don't want to beat you all to death with my love of the Glamour Bard, but this is just straight up one of the most powerful abilities in the game. So in a very brief summary here, Mantle of Inspiration is going to allow you, you're going to have to pick and choose when to do this at this level because you've only got so many dice. But when you do it, that ability for the character to be able to move anywhere on the the map without incurring an opportunity attack is really strong. This also means that things could happen like this. When you roll initiative, you could blow your Bardic Inspiration die on initiative. And let's say you won initiative. Everybody could be rushing to the best possible position in real time, all moving at one together. That doesn't happen in Dungeons and Dragons. So it could be used to get to a key position. It could be used to order a great retreat if things are going badly in the middle of a fight and reorganize and refortify. It could be used really offensively in the middle of a fight to allow you just to get around enemy lines and get to high-value targets. Or it could be a mix of anything. And you're on top of all that, you're getting temporary hit points. And what's even better than that is the reaction isn't required to take. So if the character is in a perfectly good position right now, or maybe they've already used their reaction, they still get the temporary hit points. It's an insanely powerful ability. It is the most important thing the Glamour Bard is going to do. I think it's actually more important than the spells that they're going to cast. And the Bard has great spells. So while the Bard is definitely going to be the straw that stirs the drink in this party, it isn't going to necessarily be the one that does all the work. That's going to be everybody else. But the Bard is going to facilitate it. The Bard is going to make it all happen. And of course, being a controller, you could still basically win the encounter yourself with a great use of a control spell. Great character, great little party to all work together. Now, in terms of like DPR here at this level, you are going to be at the top because you've got two of the highest DPR characters in a 4-man party. The Druid has access to things like Moonbeam, which is going to be a really good damage spell at this level. And it's going to help augment and do either soften up the enemy or do cleanup on the enemy. Already here at level 3, you're becoming a DM nightmare. And now we get to level 4, and of course everybody's going to get their ASI. I'm going to assume that both the Marshals are going to take Great Weapon Master, and they should. I think for the Druid, it's going to be a really good idea to take Warcaster. Now that could go for the Bard as well, but the Bard could be doing all sorts of different kinds of things. It could even, now this isn't really important for a Glamour Bard to pick, but you could take something like Inspiring Leader. I wouldn't really recommend it because the temporary hit points don't stack. But depending on the kind of situation you're dealing with, it is also a way for you to get the temporary hit points. And with your Bardic Inspiration, you're not giving them to yourself. Now, I should also be pointing out the spells that you're going to be getting access to here at levels 3 and level 4. You're getting access to second level spells, obviously. So you're going to be able to have access to things like Spike Growth from the Druid, Moonbeam, as I've already mentioned. The Bard's going to have a suite of utility spells. It'll have access to things like Invisibility, Suggestion, Mirror Image, Misty Step, any of the Shatter. If you wanted to be doing some damage, it's one of the few good little AoE damage spells that the Bard has. You might want to take Shatter. And then at level 5, of course, the Marshals are getting their extra attacks. The Casters are getting access to their 3rd level spells. The Paladin actually gets access to its 2nd level spell, and the Bard gets Font of Inspiration. So it's going to have 4 Bardic Inspiration dice, and now on a short rest, it gets them back, so it'll have 8. Now, I assume that you're going to have about 12 rounds of combat in a day, so in 8 of those 12 rounds here at 5th level, you've got 2 martial characters swinging for the fences hard, doing real big damage, attacking twice. You've got the Druid who's going to be able to be doing all kinds of control spells that are going to be a real problem. We'll talk about their spells here at 3rd level quickly. And 8 of those 12 rounds, you're going to be moving everybody around on the battlefield on their reactions and giving them temporary hit points and putting down control spells. And if all that weren't enough, with Font of Inspiration, the Bard can exchange a spell slot for a Bardic Inspiration die. That means a 1st level spell slot gives you a Bardic Inspiration die. And that Bardic Inspiration for the Glamour Bard is, by my estimations, at least equal to a 4th level spell. And speaking of Bardic Inspiration, that has gone up to a D8 as well. The Bard's going to have access to things like Hypnotic Pattern, and now the Druid is going to have access to Conjure Animals. Now, Conjure Animals is an amazing area of effect spell. It has a range of 60 feet. It creates a large creature that is 4 squares, and anything within 10 feet of it, as it moves around the field, anything that touches or not touches the emanation because it's not an emanation technically, but when you get within 10 feet of it, you make a dexterity saving throw or take 3d10 of slashing damage. So it's kind of like a Roomba. It just can move around. It doesn't require an action on the druid's part. It can just move around, and it's people that you choose that have to make that saving throw. So it's completely friendly to the rest of the party, and it can't be hurt. It can't be killed. It is, of course, concentration, and it lasts 10 minutes. So between Conjure Animals and Hypnotic Pattern, Bardic Inspiration going off all over the place, and two of the heaviest DPR monsters in the game, yeah, I think you're probably doing okay. The DM is probably going, what have I gotten myself into? How do I handle this? And it's going to get much, much worse. So when we get to level 6 now, the Druid, if you went Land Druid, is going to have the ability to basically get Arcane Recovery. So that's going to allow them to recover their highest level spell slot. And you're going to be able to cast, as a Land Druid, one of your spells that you got from your land spell list, one of those slots for free. Now, if you took Fireball, you're getting a Fireball for free, and you're getting whatever your normal spell slots would be, and the ability to recover one of those slots. So you're essentially looking at being able to cast 2 more times at your highest level spell casting ability, and that is an amazingly good ability. So here at level 6, you've got 3 third level spells. You essentially have 5 third level spells. One of them could be Fireball, and the other could be Control Animals, and they both go on top of each other. And then there's still Hypnotic Pattern, and everybody's still moving around all over the battlefield willy-nilly. Now, with that ability for you to sack spell slots, you could be doing it every round. Those party members aren't getting, if they are getting hit, it has to get past those temporary hit points that the Bardic Inspiration is giving them. And then that Bardic Inspiration is just coming right back the very next turn. So it's essentially giving them 1 hit for free every turn. As a party, you can organize yourself in such a way and remember your abilities to move around the field like this with the Bardic Inspiration. You're going to be able to be in situations where you are going to win a lot of saving throws. And of course, you're not taking much, if any, damage. Certainly nothing incredibly serious, unless the enemy is focus firing everything on one particular character, and that could be a problem. But you're going to be able to reorganize and not be in that kind of a situation, or at least make that kind of a situation difficult to achieve. The Druid's going to still have their access to the familiar, giving them advantage, and it's a madhouse. But then we get to level 7. And at level 7, the Paladin the Oath of Glory Paladin is getting Oath of Alacrity. Their movement goes up by 10. And anybody that has moved through their aura, their emanation, their speed is increasing by 10. So then, not only is the Paladin just moving at 40 or possibly 45 if you went with one of those other races, when your reaction movement comes from the Bard, you're going to get to move that again. And we need to keep that in mind. The Druid and the Bard are getting access now at 7th level to their 4th level spells. Now, the Druid and the Bard both are going to get access to Polymorph, which is amazing, the best 4th level spell in the game. But the Druids now also are going to get access to Conjure Woodland Beings. Now, I've just gone over that, how I prefer Conjure Animals over Conjure Woodland Beings. And I do, except for situations where things like this can happen. Because Conjure Woodland Beings is Conjure Animals without the ability to cast it at range. It becomes an emanation around you. It does 5d8 in damage. But it is now a save for half, which is better than what you would get from Control Animals, but Control Animals has a lot more flexibility. However, you get Conjure Woodland Beings now with a Glamour Bard, and that's a very different story. Because you can only force that saving throw on the enemy once per turn. So you Conjure Woodland Beings on yourself, and you start running around the battlefield, getting that extra 10 feet of movement from the Paladin. And via that spell, Conjure Woodland Beings, you get a bonus action to take the disengage action. So you can move without incurring opportunity attacks. So you start doing that. You still have your action available to you. So you're still going to be moving around doing all this area of effect damage. Now it's saved for half. You still have your action available. You might want to cast something like Thunder Wave. Who knows? Whatever you want to cast, you can do that. But as soon as your initiative count is over with and the Bards comes up and they drop the Bardic Inspiration and now the Madhouse happens where everybody moves again and gets temporary hit points again, you get to do it all over again to them because now it's a different turn. They have to take that damage again. And as I said before with Mantle of Inspiration, when this movement happens, you do not incur opportunity attacks. So heightened speed, movement, and the ability, so you're doing it all to them again, and you're able to just move to the battlefield without incurring opportunity attacks as a druid with Conjure Woodland Beings is a killer combo. So it doesn't have to be a 3-person combo. You don't absolutely have to have Oath of Glory to pull this off. Oath of Glory just adds to the fun. The Barbarian has a synergy with this as well, because you give a Barbarian a routine source of temporary hit points, that Barbarian is nearly impossible to kill, because once their rage is going, those temporary hit points are essentially double. And it's getting them back every single round. So having a Barbarian the Barbarian definitely benefits. It doesn't necessarily contribute to the combo, but it definitely is a great synergistic effect. Everybody has a synergistic effect in this combination. Everybody is helping the other one out. Remember, the Druid's got that Find Familiar, and that may not sound like a big deal, but that Familiar is providing advantage is a really nice bonus. And of course, the Druid is going to have all other kinds of things, like in terms of control and being able to cast Aid or being able to cast Goodberry and have a fount of healing available to them at all times. Everybody helps each other. The synergy in a party like this is killer. Now, Glamour Bard is one of the strongest classes in the game. Berserker Barbarian is one of the strongest DPR machines in the game. It may be the strongest, straight up. If it's not the strongest, it's one of the strongest. Druid is extraordinary in this edition. And of course, the Paladin is and always has been the Paladin. So these are all desirable classes to play. So you won't have to twist a lot of arms to get this done. But folks, that combination is... that combination with Conjure Woodland Beings, by the time it comes up here at 7th level, everything that the DM has had to deal with up until that point, they were probably teetering on what do I do? And then when they hit 7th level, they're going to be just wondering, what can I do? But it's a team that works together without feeling like you're having to feel like you're being overtly teamy. All these abilities are very good. They just happen to interlock together and make one horrific Lego monster. This is a Voltron kind of party. All right. Well, that's all I've got. If you enjoyed the video, please like, please share, please subscribe. And if you're stuck and you don't know where to go, you can always search for a secret door. Until next time, I cast Bless on all of you.